One of my alma maters is a uh, private college in Florida run by Christians. I met my first wife, who's now deceased, there. My two daughters went there and met their husbands there. And Andrea's first husband, now deceased, sent a German foreign exchange student there for 1 year, although we didn't overlap, didn't know her at the time. But when my oldest daughter, Megan, graduated from that institution, they asked me to speak at the graduation. They often ask one of the parents of graduates to speak at those exercises. And I developed a little talk which I called How the Rest of Your Life Will Play Out. And since then, I've reworked that talk and turned it into something directed to parents. Some things that you need to convey to your kids while you still have them. And since we're talking about discipleship this year as our teaching theme, and we have a Wednesday evening study on developing little disciples, discipleship implications for the home, particularly for parents, I thought it might be appropriate to return to that little graduation speech and work it into a sermon. The one certainty that young people face is uncertainty. You can't write your future in stone, and there are going to be a lot of unexpected twists and turns over which you have zero control. If I had to plan my life in advance, there are a whole lot of unexpected twists and turns that I would not have written into the script. However, there are some things over which you have complete control. And even though you cannot worry so much about the things out of your control, the things that you do have control over, you need to focus on because they will largely determine how successful or unsuccessful you will eventually be. And parents need to be talking to your kids about these things while you still have them under your roof. And what I told the graduates that day some years ago, and what I would tell young people today, whether you fully realize it or not, you're going to miss what you've had. One day you're going to completely grow up and leave home, and there are going to be some precious memories. You'll cherish the friends, the experiences, the fun you had. Some of those things will be etched on your heart for the rest of your life. But when it comes time to move on, your future success or failure will largely depend upon some basic principles, hopefully learned during that time when the kids are still in the home. Four basic principles. Work hard on your plans. Number two, learn from adversity. Number three, do more than what's expected of you. And number four, put God first in all that you do. Number one, work hard on your plans. Some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Things are handed to them on a silver platter, but not for most of us. And even for those who are born into a privileged environment, many of those people don't appreciate what's been handed to them, and they end up squandering it. Many people fall into that trap. But for the rest of us, we have to work really hard in life to attain success. That's true materially, it's also true spiritually. Success doesn't go to you, you go to it, as Marva Collins said. And the sad truth of the matter is, most people don't plan much to succeed, and therefore they don't. My heart bleeds for all the unrealized, untapped potential there is in the vast majority of us that never comes to fruition. You were made special creation of God, and God has entrusted to you some valuable gifts, resources, abilities, talents, opportunities. You are special. Don't sell yourself short. But you need to develop these things to fully appreciate them and leverage them. Napoleon Hill once said, cherish your visions and your dreams. They are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. Pablo Picasso, our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success. So parents need to be conveying to your children, you've got to work really hard in life, and you've got to develop a plan about how this hard work will play out, a game plan. And it's not wishful thinking, and it's not lazily throwing a few ideas together so that you can just kind of fall into success by happenstance. It doesn't work that way usually. Your plan involves a dirty four-letter word, WORK. And again, I think most people barely scratch the surface of their true potential. So my challenge to young people and my challenge to parents to teach their young people is to dream big dreams. Somewhere deep inside of all of us are the dormant seeds of potential, which, if awakened and put into action, would exceed your wildest imaginations. And so my message to young people is take life by the horns and go for it. And don't settle for less than what God made you to be. Parents need to be talking to their kids. What do you really want to do in life? What do you want to achieve? And what plan do you have to get there that involves really hard work? If you fail to plan, you're essentially planning to fail. Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. So your plan should involve, at least on the material side of life, getting wealthy slowly, because get rich quick schemes rarely work. Proverbs 17, verse 24, the discerning sets his face toward wisdom, but the eyes of a fool are on the ends of the earth. Big dreams, but no planning. I used to umpire girls' softball games. One time I was behind the plate at a little Tykes game, and a 9-year-old girl was afraid of the pitcher. And so she adopted a strategy to get on base, and this was her strategy. She would crouch down so low and try to narrow the pitching zone, the batter's strike zone, that she was practically sitting on the ground. And that day, her strategy backfired because the pitcher threw 3 perfect strikes over the plate that hit that narrow zone. And instead of walking to first base, she struck out. Ecclesiastes 11:10, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. Proverbs 15:22, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Some people have downplayed the so-called 10,000 hour rule, but I still think there's great merit to it. You want to be a proficient concert pianist, you've got to practice 10,000 hours. If you want to be a really good computer engineer, you've got to put 10,000 hours into that. You want to be a successful Olympic athlete, it's going to take 10,000 or more hours to get there of really hard training. That's not ironclad, but it is a general metric. A lot of people want to experience life through shortcuts, trying to get a free pass to first base rather than on their own hard work and merit. But parents need to be telling their kids, when you get to the batter's box of life, I don't want you to squat down in fear and trembling. I want you to hit the ball out of the park. Number 2, learn from adversity. Because no matter how hard you plan, you're going to have to make some serious life adjustments. When Satan or the cruel circumstances of life throw you a curveball, life is tough sometimes. And success comes at a price, and part of that price is learning how to bounce back from severe adversity, even personal failure. Again, if I were planning my own life when I was 18 years old, I never would have written into the script that my mom would die so young, or that my first wife would die at age 51, or that I would experience certain forms of severe adversity in other ways. There were some severe tangents that I had to deal with in a few of the churches that I work with. Most of my experience with doing the Lord's work has been a real positive, but there have been a few instances where I didn't see something coming and I had to deal with it. And part of the problem may have been exacerbated by mistakes that I made. I'm sure that's the case. But there have been other curves that Satan threw at me, and I had to respond to those things. So life is going to be full of unexpected twists and turns. And one message that parents need to tell their kids is you don't give up just because adversity strikes. You don't throw your hands up in despair and say, I give up. When life throws you a curve, you stay strong. Again, Napoleon Hill said, remember that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start, pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they arrive. He also said each adversity has within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. What that means is Adversity is more often than not a blessing in disguise. And we have to have the wisdom and the wherewithal to see it for what it is. We may not wish it on anybody, but if we can get to the point where we stand back, look at the larger picture, and see the blessing in disguise, we can go a long way towards succeeding materially and especially spiritually. Robert Louis Stevenson said, life does not consist of having a good hand of cards, but of learning to play a poor hand as well. And again, I can promise you, you're going to experience great trials. Parents need to be telling their kids it may be a job that wasn't what you thought it would be, a marriage relationship that wasn't as easy as you anticipated, a society that is increasingly hostile to Christians, a tough job market, an economy in shambles. It will come sooner or later. Personal tragedy. If you live long enough, you're going to experience some of these things, maybe all of these things. Life is tough. And what I told the graduates of that college on that day is some of you are going to lose loved ones sooner than you realize. In fact, I said, as hard as it is to swallow, some of you will not be alive a few years from now. I graduated from high school, and two of the most popular girls that graduated with me while I was still in college in Florida, they were at San Jose State, going to a San Jose State football game one night, crossing a street, when a drunk driver mowed them over and ended their lives. If you don't think that can happen to you, think again. If you don't think that can happen to your best friend, think again. And if you have enough decades that pass by, you'll lose your grandparents and then your parents, and maybe, as I did, the best man in your wedding, and the sweetheart who became my first wife. I hate it when a doctor says there's nothing more that we can do. But I've also been around the block enough times to know that adversity is not all bad. It helps us to see the big picture. It helps us focus on what's really important. And it reminds us that we're not here for the here and now. Psalm 119:71 says, "It is good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn your statutes." So when adversity hits, learn from your mistakes, learn how to deal with trials. One day you might even thank God for them. Count it all joy, my brothers, James says in James 1:2-4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. The bumps and bruises of life are what you climb on, so that one day you can soar. But you need those tough experiences to get there. And so don't run away from them, embrace them, and learn. And allow God to put you in positions that you never thought possible, simply because you had some tough times in life that eventually get you to where you need to be. Number 3, do more than what's expected of you. Don't do the bare minimum. Do more than what is required. Go the extra mile. Jim Rohn used to say, you don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to the hour. And Napoleon Hill developed the habit of performing more service and better service than you're paid to perform, and do it with a cheerful attitude. If you do, you'll attract a lot of attention. Others will compete for your service, doing more than what you get paid for, doing more than the bare minimum is is simply investing in your own future. Outstanding effort is effort that stands out. You stand out from the crowd. You do above and beyond. You do more. You do better. You show up earlier. You work harder. You stay later. You're more reliable. And it's not just to get a better paycheck. I'll give you a better reason to do all of that. God did not put us here for us. As we learned in the adult class this morning, as we looked at Romans chapter 12, he put us here to serve him and to serve others with a key emphasis on to serve. Build your life around the area of service. Become a servant to others. Specialize in becoming a better servant each day that you live. When you do so, you'll make yourself so valuable to others. When everyone else is expendable, you're the one person that whatever enterprise you're involved in, they cannot afford to lose. J.C. Penney, the founder of the department store chain, said it is the service we are not obliged to give that people value most. The Bible says in Proverbs 6:6-11, go to the ant, O sluggard. Consider her ways, be wise, without having any chief, officer, or ruler. She prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. And poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. Proverbs 20, verse 4, the sluggard does not plow in the autumn. He will seek at harvest and have nothing. Proverbs 22:29, do you see a man skillful in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. So work really hard. Don't worry about the immediate payback. In fact, you may feel stuck for a long, long time, and that's okay. God will provide. Be patient and continue to do what you need to do. In the long run, you will reap what you sow. God will make sure of it, and you'll have opportunities coming your way that will exceed your abilities to meet them. Fourth and finally, in all of this, put God first. One thing that parents need to communicate somehow to their kids, particularly teenagers, you value your friends, that's okay. But there's going to come a day when you're going to learn that your friends are less invested in you than your parents are. And your friends are less invested in you than God is. And the whole world doesn't evolve around those friends. In fact, when you put God first, sometimes you'll have family members that won't understand your decision making process. Even for those of us who have model Christian homes, which is in the minority, you start extending the family to what we might call extended family. You don't have to go very far by way of extension to run into relatives that will not be on the same page with you spiritually. That goes for all of us. I don't know any of us that can go beyond immediate family very far without running into people who think very differently religiously. When you put God first, saying yes to God means saying no, oftentimes, even to family. Do not think that I came to bring peace to the earth, Jesus said. I came not to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a person's enemies will be those of his own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not first take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. So here's the deal. Put Jesus first and let the consequences spill out however they may. When you do that, your eternal security is, your eternity is secure. And you'll find out who your friends really are. You'll find out who your true family really is. I have brothers and sisters in Christ who are more family to me than some of my own family, physical family. But put God first. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. Proverbs 9 and verse 10. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Proverbs 3:5. This is the end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every hidden thing, whether it be good or evil. Ecclesiastes 12:13 and 14. Put God first, and everything else will take care of itself. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these other things will be added to you, Jesus teaches in Matthew 6 and 33. So you parents, teach your kids that this is just training ground. And you love them to death, but you love them enough to tell them the truth. But at the end of the journey, you want to be able to say, with the Apostle Paul, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. 2 Timothy 4:7 and 8. You may start out well in the home with those little ones, but you want to teach them to finish well outside your domain. And in order to do that, you not only need to say these things with your words, you need to say them with your life. Because none of this will probably stick if you're not trying with all your heart to practice what you preach. Work hard on your plans. Learn from adversity, because there are going to be many times when your plans get derailed in one sort or another and you've got to make an adjustment. Number 3, do more than it's expected of you. Work really hard. Number 4, always put God first. You'll be able to say to your kids when they graduate from high school, college, and they go off in another direction of life, you've passed some tests here, but will you pass the ultimate test of life? Will you get that heavenly diploma one day? Because if you don't get that, nothing else matters. May God bless you all, and may the lives that you lead from this moment forward bring glory and honor to his heavenly kingdom. You're subject to the invitation call of Jesus and need to get on the right track